This is what you need to know if you plan to travel to the States from Canada as of January 21st, 2022. Cool. Later, but I think you guys got us in there. Hey guys, my name is Jacob. Welcome back to the channel. I'm making 365 videos in 365 days, and looks like I am going to be traveling stateside for a few days. I'm recording this video on Friday the 21st, and I will be flying out on Sunday the 23rd. So because of that, it's fresh in my head, and I want to get this information out for anybody that is looking to travel to the States. Now, couple of quick disclaimers on this. This information is only valid as of today, so please check the Canada website. Please check the border crossing website for the United States as well. I can only give you the information based on my particular situation. This is not meant to get political. This is not meant to get into anybody's beliefs in anything that is going on right now. I'm only going to give you the facts about what is happening with me, my current situation, and what I am doing to travel to the United States and come back with as little problems as humanly possible. Here are the facts. I am leaving on Sunday the 21st. I will be returning on Wednesday the 26th. I'll be returning on Wednesday the 26th. I have 2 vaccinations, both by Pfizer. They were done back in 2021. I have no history of testing positive. So that is my situation. I don't have a booster. Once again, I've never tested positive. Those 2 things may affect this entire situation. So what are the rules that I'm dealing with currently? Well, to get into the United States as of right now, I don't need any testing. It used to be last year that I would need a negative test that was a rapid antigen test. So very, very simple one. As long as it came from a laboratory, I could get that done. That is no longer necessary. So I actually need no testing in order to get into the United States as of right now. I do need to have proof of vaccination and proof of both vaccinations. So I'm going to have that paperwork with me, and I'm going to get into paperwork near the end of this because it's incredibly, incredibly important. The biggest hurdle with this trip is that I need a negative PCR result back that was taken within 72 hours of me returning home. So I will be returning home at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, and that is key. That means 72 hours is 9 p.m. on Sunday. The reason why this gets a little bit tricky is I am flying out, I'm leaving Detroit around 4 o'clock, when I'll actually get into Wisconsin time at 4:30. So there's actually, it's an hour and a half flight, but because of the hour time change. The issue is that I have not been able to find a testing facility that is able to book me a PCR test at 9 p.m. on Sunday. The reason why I'm looking to do that as close to that 72-hour window as possible is because test results for a PCR can take up to 72 hours. So now you can understand why the logistics of this can get very, very tight. I was able to book a test for Monday morning at 8 a.m., which means that in theory, I could fly out of Wisconsin as late as Thursday. I'd have to be crossing the border back into Windsor by 8 a.m. on Thursday. I am leaving Wednesday night. So it is within that time range. The issue is that if my PCR test takes longer than, if I don't get my results back before I decide to cross the border back into Canada, I'm not allowed to cross the border back into Canada, and I will essentially have to wait in Detroit until that happens. So by driving over the border into the US, I don't need to have that test. Now, if I flew into the US, I believe at that point I did need a test. Once again, I'm only speaking to the situation that I'm currently in. So that is the logistics purely around testing. Fingers crossed, everything goes well, and I get a negative PCR test. If I get a positive PCR test, I will have to then wait 11 days from the time of that positive PCR test. So I would essentially be able to fly back to Detroit. Realistically, I should stay in Wisconsin if I receive that information in Wisconsin and not get on a plane with a bunch of other people. But in theory, I cannot cross into Canada until 11 days if I test positive. That rule actually changed as of yesterday, it looks like. Before that, it was 15 days. So once again, a biggest tip here, check as many resources as you possibly can. Check CDC, check the Canadian border website, the American border website. All of that stuff is very, very important. You do need to have like a quarantine plan. You need to have all of that information where you would quarantine. So yes, what I've done thus far is I have all of my documentation ready for my flight. I have all my documentation ready for my vaccination. And I have all of my documentation, I'm not going to show it to you, but it's here, for my test before I even get to the border, before I even try to cross into Detroit from Windsor. And the biggest tip I can give anybody, if you are ever crossing any border, is do not have your information on your phone. I feel like I need to repeat this. Do not have your information on your phone. You need to print off all of that information and have duplicates of all of that information in 2 or 3 separate folders. I know this seems like kind of a ridiculous thing, but the reason behind that is, and this was actually something that was said to me by an American border guard, and that is, do you want a border guard to go through your phone? Because if all of your information is on your phone, you have to give your phone over to that border guard for them to look through it, and they can find whatever the fuck they want in there. The other thing is, if this ever gets broken, you're completely screwed. So my biggest recommendation, especially right now and traveling during all the COVID shit, is to have multiple copies in multiple places with you when you cross the border. So what I will end up doing is I will have basically a folder that is on my person. I will have a folder that stays in my luggage, and I will folder that will stay in my vehicle, and I will actually leave behind when I fly to Wisconsin. So that way I have one that I can hand the border guard, and hopefully he doesn't take it. I mean, keep it. I've never had one keep it. They've always returned everything. But I can have them take that. I then have another copy that I can bring with me on my flight in case anything happens there, although I'm flying within the US, so their testing policies are pretty much null and void. And then I have another copy in case something happens or my luggage is lost or anything like that, that is in my truck back in Detroit for when I get back home, when I need to cross back into the border. That shows all my vaccination stuff. The only thing that it will not have is my negative test result from when I take a test in Wisconsin. So yes, having multiple documents in multiple places is an absolutely massive benefit. It's one of those situations where you don't want to find out that you didn't do it. So that is key. The other thing that I've noticed with crossing the border during COVID is their questioning is a little bit different. They're more curious. They seem to be more curious about like where you're going, where you're spending time, where you're staying. So the other thing that I'll be doing is printing off all of my hotel information before I cross the border to show where it is that I'm staying while I'm in town. The more of that you can have ready to go when you get to the border, the less questions that you have, the more organized that you seem, and the less of a hassle that you will get when you cross over the border. So that is what is happening. That is what I have done so far to prepare for it. So I will have physical copies of all the documentation that I need, which is my COVID testing, both before and after I receive it, my hotel information. I'm also going to be receiving a letter from the client that I'm going to work with that says that I'm going there for meetings, which will also make life a little bit easier because I'm going there on business. The visa stuff is a whole other thing. That is something I don't even feel qualified to speak on at all. It is a very convoluted subject about what you're allowed to go into the States to do if you're conducting business. Anyways, so I am going there for meetings to discuss some things. So from my understanding, that is more than okay. So I've asked the client that I'm working with to print off a letter that states that I'm going there for a given period of time on a company letterhead with contact information. That way, if the border guard has questions, they can call that person directly, speak to them as a representative of the client that I'm working for. I like to be incredibly organized when I'm crossing the border. It is something that I don't enjoy doing because I always feel like they're trying to catch me on something, even if I have absolutely nothing. But at the end of the day, it's not impossible. Travel right now is completely doable. It's not easy, and you have to have a lot of forethought about doing it. But if you have all of your ducks in a row, it's pretty smooth sailing. It's just a series of events that you kind of get through, and as long as you're organized, it's not a big deal. So I'm going to do my best to bring my camera along with me during this journey. I will try and make a little bit of a travel vlog of my trip there to share with you guys so you can understand everything that goes on during the trip and how that went. So make sure to subscribe for that because that will more than likely be coming out fairly soon as well. So thank you again, guys, for watching. My name is Jacob, making 365 videos in 365 days, and I'll see you tomorrow.